Perfect. Hi, Devin. How are you today?
Hey, Sophia. I'm excited to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm excited to talk with you. You are amazing. We went to high school together, so I'm biased, but
Jax for life, girl.
Jags for life. Devin was a cheerleader. I was a Palmer. Listen, we love it. We love to see it. But thank you so much for chatting with me and being my first guest on the Politics of Radio. I'm really excited to learn more about you and just everything that goes into radio and all those good things. So to kick us off, I would love to just hear if you could tell us your name officially, what station you're a part of, and what you do there, like your journey so far.
Yes, so my name is Devin. My radio name is D.Carter. I am currently the executive producer as well as on-air talent on the Good Morning Show on
Hey.
WPGC 95.5. I've been with PGC, oh my gosh, I want to say it's been like 7 or 8 years now.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yes, and when I tell you I started at the bottom in that
Mhm.
building. So the hierarchy really in radio to get your start, entry level is typically promotions.
Mhm.
So I started out as a street teamer, being at all
Okay.
of the station events, the big ones like a Chris Brown concert to the small
Mhm.
ones at a small T-Mobile shop, and just really being the face of the station because a lot of people don't realize the street teamers and the promotions team a lot of the time is your closest connection to the bigger personalities at the
Okay.
radio stations. They're kind of like the fun squad.
Okay.
Um, but over the years, I worked my way up. I had a goal. I knew that I wanted to be on air. And
Okay.
this is after I had moved back to the DMV from living in LA for 8 years. I got my start at a major label as an intern and started doing, when I was in college, started doing a radio show with another intern. And that was how I got my first taste into radio.
Okay.
The premise of that show was spotlighting independent, unsigned artists and songwriters and really just getting their names out there to the label reps that we were interning for at the time. And like I said, that was my first taste into radio. And I was like,
Okay.
oh my gosh, like I love being able to spotlight new artists, put people onto new music, and being able to banter and just kind of throw my expertise and my opinions in on these new artists and whatever is going on in pop culture. So when I moved back to the DMV, I got my job at PGC. Like I said, I started at the
Mhm.
bottom, and now I am the EP and on air for the morning show, which it's been a hell of a journey to say the
That's
least.
incredible. And if you could break, first of all, that's an incredible journey. A fun fact, my dad actually did security for
Oh
WPGC.
wow!
Yeah, and he told me this like way later. I think you gave me the opportunity to come on for one of my clients. He told me later, he said, I worked there. I was like,
Oh
what? Yeah, so he was there when Dottie Simpson was there. Which is so funny. He's like, yeah, I remember the building. I'm like, Dad, I'm sure they're probably moved by now, but he's very invested with PGC because of that. Yeah, it's
wow!
one of his first jobs when he moved here from Ghana. So that's a very so PGC is close to my heart.
Yes, full
So
circle moment. Wow.
yeah, it's definitely full circle. And I would love if you could like kind of break down a little bit. What is an executive producer,
So the
radio wise?
executive
Yeah.
producer of the morning show is really they're doing all of the like kind of the groundwork,
Okay.
when the mics are cut off. So I am responsible for doing the show prep for each show, which is pulling all of the topics that we talk about every day. I run our social medias. I do all of the technical
Mhm.
stuff like running the boards, any edits that need to be made to commercials or promotions or to interviews. I'm the one that's making those edits. So really just anything behind the scenes that you probably wouldn't think of for a morning show, that is what the
Mhm.
EP is doing.
Okay. Got it. And how does that work balance with you also hosting and being a personality on your own? Which is congratulations. That's a huge deal.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
a lot of work. It's a lot of work. We've dealt with a lot of changes to our
Mhm.
morning show over the last couple of months. There were four of us on the morning show, and now we're down to two because our company, one of our personalities, she walked away, but our company was dealing with a lot of layoffs, and
Okay.
so we've had to learn how to pivot very quickly and really just step in and assume those roles. I started out as a personality first. So,
Okay.
it was an easy transition for me. And as a producer, sometimes, like I said, you fall into the back a little bit. I felt like
Mhm.
for a long time, I was kind of I was silencing myself a little bit. So it feels
Mm,
good to kind of get back into, the swing of being able to really talk my ish and,
yeah.
really be in front of the mic and, stand 10 toes on what I believe because, I was the millennial voice on the show. Everybody
Okay.
I felt like had a little bit more life experience than me, but the listeners always are really, they always shock me when they're like, "Oh my God, we want to hear more from the millennials," So
Yeah.
it's been a lot of fun getting back in front of the mic after being behind for so long. So
And how have you all shifted to just with the rise of podcasts and other mediums? How has that worked out for you all?
one thing that I have seen over the last like 2 years where potting has gotten really, really
Yeah.
popular, the people who love radio, they're loyal. You
They
know what I
love
mean?
radio.
It's a
Yeah.
lot of it has to do with the personalities that they connect with or that they, we like I said, we lost our comedian Jason, and it was a huge loss for us because, you
Mhm.
don't realize sometimes people are tuning into the radio just for a specific talent.
Person.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So people get connected to the talent, they get connected to their stories, their family life. Where we one of the things about being a radio personality, you have to be vulnerable because you want
Yes.
people to feel like they can relate to you. So
Mhm.
I think the loyal radio rockers is what we call them. They're going to continue to rock with us regardless of, the rise in streaming or pods or whatever. They love
100%.
radio.
I love that. And I know you also have been able to work with different stations and like different capacities. I know with series now and also downtown locker room. So how does that balance out like with their schedule and just, curious about your day to day?
Oh, girl, I'm still trying to get used to the new schedule.
Okay.
Um, but I will say, with me being at Sirius now, I'm
Mm.
stepping into completely new territory for me
Okay.
because I've always been the urban girl, and
Hmm.
I know that my strength is entertainment and pop culture. And music. That's always
Yeah.
been my thing. So now at Sirius, I am in the college sports world.
Yes.
I am not a sports girl by any means, but now being with the company for a few weeks, I'm like, I needed this challenge. I
Mhm.
needed to learn a new format because I want to be well-rounded. I want to be fully submerged in radio and media, and I'm doing myself a disservice by only focusing and targeting on one format. So it has been a huge eye opener. I've had to humble myself in a lot of instances because I'm starting from scratch, learning
Yeah.
completely new. So it's exciting. It's exciting to step into completely new and uncharted territory.
I love that. And I think there's something so special about the fact that even as technology changes, like something I love about radio is that there'll always be voices. I know
Mhm.
radios also are on podcasts. Like it always shifts and goes back and forth. But even with what you said about Sirius, like it's a challenge to you. But what really matters is like the voice that you bring to that role and
Right.
being able to hear you. And I think that is really incredible, you being able to navigate that. Yeah, so I wanted to, of course, also get your expertise. I know a lot of us who are radio fans, pop culture fans, of course, especially with the urban sector. We all saw what happened on The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what really inspired me. I was like, I need to talk to Devin about, she needs to tell me like the politics of what it is on radio. And Lauren was a producer, Jess was the host. Like, what does that look like? All of that.
Girl.
So, so I definitely I wanted to kind of kick off things into that direction with you right now, just on if I could just even get your initial reactions when you saw things. When did you see it? Was it before or after? Yeah, we can start off there.
So my first initial reaction, I think I saw it on social media when everybody else
Yeah,
saw
what
it.
all did? Okay.
My first initial reaction was I felt like neither girl was wrong. I felt like they
Me
both
too.
had valid points. And
Yeah.
the first thing that I thought was this is the doing of the programming director at the
Okay.
radio station, not communicating whatever changes were
What's
being
happening?
made
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes to both of the girls. So my understanding, Jess, she had her baby. She left for maternity leave. She
Mm-hmm.
knew that she signed a contract. So when you sign a contract, you have a job to come back to until a certain date, right? Until the
Exactly.
contract ends. So conversations were clearly being had, with Lauren LaRosa. And again, as a producer, I totally see Lauren stepping into, an opportunity with the biggest, arguably the biggest morning show in urban radio. They told her,
Exactly.
look, you're the producer, Jess is gone. It's your time to really step it up and be
Yeah.
that female voice on the show.
Mm.
Anybody would take full advantage of that opportunity. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. If you're
Because
smart.
you know, if
Yeah.
you're gonna take it, you're gonna milk it, you're gonna do the best of your abilities while you have that shot, right?
Exactly.
And she did that, and the listeners loved her, right?
Yeah.
So it worked in her favor,
Hmm.
not so much for Jess, but Jess comes back after having her baby, and she's like, okay, now you're doing my feature on the show.
Hmm.
All of the listeners are saying that they like you more than they like me.
Hmm.
And I feel like I can't really get a word in on the mic when I'm a lead voice. So I totally see both sides. And it was the doing of the programming director. Clearly on social media, seeing, all of the listeners saying that they love this new girl. They're drafting up a contract for her behind the scenes, but
Mm.
they're not telling
They're not
anybody.
saying, they're not
You know what I
communicating.
mean?
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to Jess, I'm very big on not bringing whatever issues you have in the studio or with your colleagues, with your peers to social media. I think
Hmm.
that's a big issue. Whether you work in radio or you're living a regular life, right?
Yes.
Like just bringing your issues to social media.
Hmm.
I think that was an issue, a huge issue, and she was wrong on that part. But I totally understand the frustration from both
Frustration.
sides.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say that it had something to do with management and them just not being open and communicative with all of the players on the show, which is a major
The
problem.
problem, definitely. And I could see too, like even I like even DJ MB's reaction, like he seemed very hurt. Like, why like we couldn't talk? Why didn't we talk? I felt as
Exactly.
though even if conversations were happening, they weren't very transparent because
Exactly.
there was clearly something still on the table. So I
And everyone
definitely
wasn't involved. It may be a
exactly.
conversation with Envy and Charlemagne, and Jess is out, or Lauren is
Exactly.
included, but the whole
There
family is
wasn't
sitting at the
together. Or
table.
even like Jess is talking to her, Jess is talking to him, but there wasn't like all four of us.
Yes,
And I
exactly.
agree with that. And I guess too, what can really help with the program directors, what really is their role? Are they like overseeing the entire show? And I mean, I know the name, it might be inherent in the name, but can you break that down for us a little?
Yes. So the programming director, they oversee all of the talent.
Okay.
So they are responsible for every day part. So morning show, we every year we get a budget for the morning show, and they're in charge of making sure that we get paid, the right salary, that our show
Mm.
runs, all of the day parts on the show run the way that they're supposed to be running. The programming director is the middleman between anybody else in the radio station and the talent. You're gonna
Okay.
go talk to the programming director about anything involving talent or any of the shows that are running on on air. So
Okay, got it. And when it comes to, I guess, decisions on, because I know Lauren is still a producer, as far as I understand, when it comes to decisions on who's actually speaking or doing what, like I was very excited when I saw they brought back Just Fix My Mess. I
mhm,
personally think Just really shines with like the everyday caller, everyday listener.
right.
That's really where she shines. Whereas obviously Lauren has a really strong news and reporter angle to things. I'm sure her TMZ background helps with that. So when
Mhm.
it comes to the program directors, is it something where like they really are looking at social media, which can possibly help Justice's point of we see the comments. I guess I'm not trying to live from the comments, but we do see it. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Is that something that radio management can sometimes do? And I know that can go to anything in marketing, but I'm just curious.
Social media is tricky now
Okay,
with radio. Yes, they are looking,
that's
absolutely
real. Yeah.
looking. And I'm trying to. It's become, honestly, social media has become a big frustration for me and a lot of other radio personalities, simply because I went to school for this. Like, I'm thousands
Mm,
of dollars in debt with paying off student loans for this.
yeah.
And when I tell you I got out the mud, I told you I started at the bottom at the
Mhm.
radio, in this building.
Yeah.
So social media has made it tricky, and it's really changed the landscape of radio and media a lot, because now you don't have to have a degree in communications to be a radio personality. Now all they're looking at is how many followers
Followers you have.
you have on Instagram. It doesn't matter if you can conduct a professional interview or not. It doesn't matter if you know how to run a board. It doesn't matter if
Mhm.
you know the true art and of radio and how to be a media personality. All it matters is how many followers you have. Can you bring, are those followers going to
Gonna
generate
listen.
more ratings for us? You know what
Mhm.
I mean? So it's made things really, really tricky because you have, again, you have the radio personalities who have been doing this for years, and then we're not getting hired, or we're losing our jobs now to
Mm.
influencers just
Yeah.
have a lot of followers.
Yes.
Um,
That is so tricky.
yeah.
And with that pressure with social, like, has that caused you to want to be more active online? Or like, do you have a strategy? Are you trying to just like, let me just get consistent, then I'll go higher?
Working on it.
Okay.
I will tell you, I'm so bad. I'm really, really bad about social. I get slaps on the wrist all the time. They're like, listen, I don't care if you're going to get your nails done. Just post a reel, but it's a lot of
Yeah.
work, to do so.
Yeah.
And it's something that I know, and it's one of my goals for this year. I have to be better about posting and just being more intentional about
Yeah.
what I post. Um, because it really is important. I mean, when it comes to brand deals, endorsements, they're all looking at your social media and your
About what's going on.
yeah.
Yeah. That is so
Yeah.
real.
Yep.
And what would you say, like keeping all these elements in mind? I think, of course, like you were saying, radio personalities have a lot to think about now. Like I remember, even though I went the PR route, and I'm sure I'll do it in some way one day, I'm kind of doing it now. I went to journalism school, and
Mm-hmm.
part of my decision to get into PR and marketing was because I was like, they are not hiring for what I'm trying to do. Because, I went to school in New York, wanting to be a fashion journalist. I was like, okay, I'll still work in the industry, but I have to
Mm-hmm.
kind of maneuver and like, kind of figure things out.
Right.
So like within radio right now, what are some things like people aspire to? Like what is something, without of course giving away your master plan, but what are some things that like even someone like you would aspire to or look forward to in this industry, as the future progresses and things like that?
For me, the end goal is getting into TV.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have always from day one said that Wendy Williams is it for me. Okay.
Okay.
Like I love my girl down. I love how she was able to completely just kill it in whatever radio market she was in. I mean, she's been in multiple markets. Obviously, she ended her radio career in New York, which is the top market, and
Uh,
so well with that that she made a seamless transition into daytime TV. So I don't know if daytime is what, ultimately I want to do, if I want to get
mhm.
into more like TV film, but TV is definitely the next step for me after radio.
Okay. I
Definitely want
love
to stay,
that.
yeah, stay in
Yes.
entertainment for sure.
Yeah, so we're gonna look forward to seeing you on screen.
Yes,
I
girl.
love it. And like you said with Wendy Williams, like there is no Breakfast Club without a show like Wendy Williams. Or even because if you want to say even Charlamagne's background, you need a Wendy Williams, right?
You
So
needed when there would be no Charlemagne
there
without
won't be no Charlamagne without Wendy. Yes,
truly,
truly. So
truly.
that's really interesting because on radio and any platform of communications, we build upon each other,
Hmm.
and I find it really interesting too. Because not to compare shows, I know there's different personalities, different people, but I found it so fascinating how like Sway in the Morning, you kind of just accepted everyone at the table. Like there
Yeah.
didn't really seem to be much tension, or maybe there was just more clarity on who does what.
Hmm.
And I know that now they've done a better job at like finding their spots on the Breakfast Club, and they're working towards like even making humor out of the situation, which I think is
Hmm.
genius. But as an EP, from your perspective, what are some things that you feel like they could focus on or could better present to the public, moving forward?
I will say I like the way they came back and spun it
Me
after
too.
everything happened. I saw they did like a The Job Is Mine, like
Yes,
spin off
the
of the
publicist in me
boy.
loved it. Yes.
I love it. And honestly, that's how you have to milk it. You know what I'm saying? Humor is always the best way to kind of slide out of those sticky situations.
Yes.
Um, the producer in me, I will say I liked that they brought it on air the
Me
following
too.
after
I think it was
everything.
great.
You have to. Sometimes you kind of need that drama for
Mm,
for the ratings. And if everybody's already talking about it, why
why
not bring
not?
the mic? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the best way to handle these situations, take it to social media, so you already took it to social media when you
We
were
keep
upset.
doing
So
it.
now that things are cool and things have kind of, aired out a little bit, you got to bring it back to social media. And again, make it light, make it fun, let
Yeah,
everybody know like no major changes, ain't nobody leaving. We're all going to be here. We're going to be a family. We're going to stick it out and stuff happens, right? Like,
exactly.
and that's my biggest thing. Like, I've worked in radio for a very long time. Stuff
It
happens. Like
happens.
people will tell you, and obviously I'm not gonna say names, but
Yeah,
there have been radio duos that you would never know that they can't stand each other on air. Like literally
they
after
do their jobs.
break, they will
Yeah.
leave the studio so they don't have to be with each other.
Mm.
But when it's time to do a talk break, they get the job done. And you listeners would never know. You know what I
Yeah, and
mean?
that
So
means you're really doing your job.
keep it in studio. Keep it in studio. And if
Yes.
it leaves the studio, try to make your listeners laugh or smile or
Yeah,
something so that they know the
something
attention is gone and it's deaded,
to bring it around. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, that's a great perspective because I agree with you, maybe the little producer in me. I
Mhm.
was like, because you brought up a great point too at the beginning of us chatting when you said that, on the radio you are vulnerable. I'm bringing my
Mhm.
life to the mic, and I think a lot of the viewers and social media was viewing the Breakfast Club as if they're like everyday people working in a cubicle. They
Right.
are radio personalities. They have
Right.
to discuss these things. And also, transparency is the best policy. And to your point, if you already brought it on social, let's keep going.
Exactly.
It's a great show. It's
People
great
want to
entertainment.
know.
Yeah, they
You
want to
can't leave them
know.
hanging now. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's the worst. Like, I know you've seen certain programs or even TV shows where you're like, okay, so what now? Because
Yeah.
I'm a reality TV girl. So I'm always just like, all right, we can't be doing this now. And I think it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not with it. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I think you gave some really great tips on like how to move forward. And yeah, thank you so much for your insights.
Of course. Of course. This was
Yes.
fun. This was
Yes, it
fun, girl. You
was.
gotta call me back on.
I will. I will. I'm gonna do something. Maybe I'll cozy up to an EP that I know. But where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram at D.Carter Radio. I'm also on Twitter under Love D.Carter.
Love it. Thank you, Devin.
You are so welcome, girl.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it. Perfect.
Yeah, that's fun. You, girl, you need to be like doing more interviews. You did a great
I
job.
know. I need to do it. I need to do it. Hold on one second. Let me make sure I did this properly.